36 degrees Celsius in Mallorca at the moment. The lure of warm seas and sunshine bringing some back to the Spanish shores. Here at One London Airport, it's 18 degrees Celsius with no sun in sight, and 15 flights from Spain are due to come in. So if you're landing here at Gatwick today from Spain, not only will you have to deal with the wild and wet British summer, but also have to quarantine for 14 days. And for the people I spoke to, some of them said it was mildly inconvenient, and others didn't understand why they had to do it when they actually felt safer in Spain.
But we've been in Ibiza, which has got less infection than I think anywhere in the UK. I don't know, it seems a bit nuts.
How are you feeling about 2 weeks inside?
Oh, I'm really looking forward to it.
Honestly.
Well, it's terrible, isn't it? Yeah. They've had very few cases in the Balearic Islands. Can't really see why they would want to lock us up for 2 weeks, but it's difficult, isn't it?
They made you fill out a form, which took about 20 minutes, and you've got kids screaming everywhere, and then you just walk through. Not one person took a temperature. So surely they should be taking people's temperatures or offering you a test. Like if they said, do you want to take a test to see if you've got COVID, I'd more than happily pay for it myself to not have to quarantine for 14 days.
Joe Allen flew back last night from Madrid. He booked his holiday a few weeks ago when restrictions were eased.
Spain was great. The fact I'm stuck at home now isn't so much. It was lovely. Madrid was brilliantly wonderful, quiet. There wasn't many people there. The rules were very well enforced, I thought, actually. We did a lot of wandering around the streets, and there wasn't a lot of people. You had to wear masks outside. You had to put hand sanitizer in shops and bars when you went in, which made a lot of sense to me.
Do you regret going? Do you wish you hadn't?
If I'd have known there was going to be a quarantine, I absolutely wouldn't have gone. So I regret not having the information I needed to make that decision. I don't know if that was possible on Friday. I don't know if we'd have known about it on Friday. But I regret, I wouldn't have done it if I'd have known it was going to be a quarantine.
So how bad are the numbers in Spain? These are the areas that have seen a surge in cases. Catalonia with a spike of over 5,000 in the last 7 days. In Aragon, it's just over 2,000. The capital and its surrounding region has had over 900 new cases. But while the mainland has seen rises, the islands, which are more popular with tourists, are lower. Just over 50 cases in the Balearic Islands and nearly 100 in the Canaries. Just a few hours ago, the government added these islands to their list to advise against all non-essential travel, leaving travel companies in limbo again, now having to decide whether they should stop flights there too. But Spanish officials insist the virus is under control. Many hope that when international holidays were given the go-ahead, our favourite destination would be safe to go to. But the sudden change in policy has left many holidaymakers frustrated and confused, with others wondering whether countries currently on the safe list could be removed just as quickly.
I should tell reporting, well, now earlier I spoke to Dr. Miquel Porta. He is Professor of Epidemiology at the Autonomous University of Barcelona. I began by asking him whether there are differing levels of infection between the islands and the mainland regions of Spain.
The figures show that the situation is very different in certain parts of the country, as I think it happens everywhere in Europe, in all countries. So, for instance, compared to the UK, the situation is even better for the average UK. The situation is better in the islands and even in Valencia, Andalusia, and the northwest of Spain. So I think if we deal with each country as a whole, we may be doing quite a lot of harm to the economy of the different countries, including citizens from the UK who are planning their vacations anywhere in Europe.
Did Spain open up too fast?
I think certain parts of Spain were eager to open up, but they did not implement the surveillance measures. So you need epidemiological surveillance, people on the field, tracking cases and contacts. And some areas did that, and other areas did not do that properly.
But this does sound like a battle between the economy in any country and the pandemic. You have to make a judgment as to how far you can go. And it sounds really as if Possibly Britain and Spain and other countries in Europe may have gone too far too fast.
I, as an epidemiologist and physician, I really think we must balance life and economy, life and vacation and the economy, because the two influence each other, don't they? So we emphasize the need to implement what we all know needs to be implemented: surveillance, confinement of individuals, and so on. I don't like to present a clash between the economy and health, because then we will all lose. And countries nowadays have the means to balance things, you know, like to allow tourism in certain areas, and then something also very important: when we visit another country, we want visitors to follow the rules that they would follow at home. So we still want any tourist to behave properly at night, for instance, and to maintain distance and use masks and so on. So I think we have the means to behave properly and to keep the vacation pleasant and enjoyable, and not to disrupt the whole tourist industry.
Professor Porta, thank you very much indeed for talking to us.
My pleasure.
Well, even the Transport Secretary, Grant Shapps, was caught out by the last-minute change of rules. He's now cutting short his Spanish holiday to fly home straight into quarantine, although his family are staying on without him. The decision has been described as a hammer blow by travel companies and airlines, but the government said public safety was its top priority. Our political correspondent Liz Bates reports.
This was Spain's message to tourists during lockdown. España te espera. But they might have to wait a bit longer. After a spike in COVID cases prompted the UK government to say, don't go, and for those already there, 2 weeks quarantine when they get back.
It almost certainly will have had a major impact on consumer confidence, and it will dent the industry recovery, the travel and tourism industry recovery.
And the markets agreed. In response to the announcement, some big firms took big hits to their share price. At one point today, British Airways was down 8%, EasyJet down 10%, and tour operator TUI down 13%. Over the past few weeks, the government has been trying to gently ease the lockdown. But what we saw over the weekend is that can all change very quickly. After ministers were advised on Saturday that Spain was no longer safe for travel, those new rules were imposed the very next day. And the speed of that decision is what has suddenly introduced a new level of uncertainty into a period that was supposed to be one of recovery.
More important than anything else is public safety. And the evidence is clear. The virus is on the rise again in Spain. It's particularly strong in the northeast of Spain, but it's also spreading across the whole of Spain. So we need to keep people safe.
The Scottish Government also came in for criticism after it too took Spain off the safe list, just a few days after putting it on.
When we added Spain to the exempt list and made that announcement about a week ago, in the days that followed, I was at pains to tell people that was not set in stone. It's not set in stone for any country.
And the decision hasn't just hit big business. Usually you'd have a lot more people in here.
Yeah.
With small businesses across the UK wondering how to survive their staff spending another unexpected period at home. Like this electrical wholesaler, employing 8 people, the majority of whom are still on furlough.
It is a worry, because one of my guys is out in Mallorca at the moment. He's been out there for 3 or 4 days and is due to come back towards the end of the week. Obviously,
so he was caught out there?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So he was on the emails this morning, kind of questioning what's going on, and essentially we're not 100% sure ourselves until kind of a bit further down the line.
Questions for the government that the unions are saying need answers.
At the moment, if you're currently sitting by the side of the pool in Spain, you may come home to worry A, about how you're going to pay the bills, and B, whether you're going to have a job at the end of it. And that's why we think the government should be really clear to employers that where possible, they should keep paying people, and that at the very least, people should be getting statutory sick pay at a level far higher than the current paltry levels.
On this issue, things seem to be moving at speed. Even the Transport Secretary, caught up in the quarantine after flying out to Spain on Saturday, he's now being rushed home to see out his 2-week holiday in the UK.